I was informed that Short Fat Otaku said that I'm a contrarian. Is that true, chat? Am I a contrarian? Do I say things that I don't believe in just to be on the contrary? It's possible. I don't know. I don't think I am a contrarian though. I generally think like if something annoys me, I express it. Um, if not, I don't like. For instance, there's this hypothesis that Sargon has recently. Speaking of contrarianism, he said it on Adam and Stitch, and he's got like this interesting theory, which he can back it up to a certain degree, that communism sprouts from liberalism, right? And he goes back to the nature of man, the nature of man being like how human beings were before the government was created. And he basically, like he rationalizes it. He says it's like because the nature of man, it was to like protect property, and that's why they have a government. So communism comes from there in order to justify like why everyone should have property, which is like equality or whatever. The thing is, like, it's interesting. Like, I guess it kind of fits. The only problem though is that communism doesn't come from liberalism. Communism existed before liberalism, right? So like if your idea is if liberalism didn't exist, then we wouldn't have communism, like that's false, because communism existed in ancient times, like way before any of the modern governments came to be. And when you look at the nations that sprouted communism, you have the Soviet Union, which came from a monarchy, and then you also have China. Both of these were liberal nations, and the liberal nations of the time, the United Kingdom, the United States, they didn't have communism, right? So it's an interesting theory, but like it doesn't really serve any applications. I mean, sure, I guess like some communist thinkers, they inspired themselves from liberalism simply because like they were in Europe and that's the ideology that they had access to. But if liberalism didn't exist, they would use other things. And you can look at communism, and you can also trace its roots to Christianity, right? Like a lot of the stuff that they are advocating for is things that, like they're using Jesus, like some of the original communist thinkers, they're using Jesus, and it's like, oh, well, Jesus said donate and care for your neighbor, so therefore. I will tell you though what I think communism is about, okay? Since we're on the subject. It's not about people not wanting to work. I mean, it's a little bit of that, but like, human beings are violent, right? Like we are intrinsically violent. We're very territorial creatures, and we're violent. And because of that, in order to live in a society, violence has to be managed. So the government has the authority on violence. It's got the monopoly on violence, right? But humans are also inherently compassionate, sorry. Like we're compassionate. We care about others. We're very empathetic, right? But the problem is there is an institution that controls violence, but there is no institution that manages empathy and compassion. And because of that, you have like this pathological altruism running amok. And this is what creates wokeness, because wokeness is not really communism. Like communists would have lined up the woke people against the wall if you look at history and what the old communists believe, like the economical Marxists. So it's more like that. Yes, it's because we do not have any way of controlling the altruism, I guess. Pashput is trying to turn me into a monarchist. Well, good for him. Hi V, I hope all is well, and glad you like the fan art. Oh, I love the fan art. I love monarchy, especially if I get to be the king. I want to have the utensil as my subject. I want him to be the underling. Well, I want him to be under me. Like that, Like I am the nobility, he is the plebeian. And all of a sudden, monarchy is the greatest system that the world has ever made. All jokes aside, though, like to be a king is probably shit. Unironically, like you have no free will. You don't get to do what you want. Everything is like protocol. You even your body language is micromanaged. Like everything you do has to be micromanaged from the ground up, right? So yeah, you're rich, I guess, but who cares? You can't do shit. Right? Like the press is always on you. And even then, if you don't rule properly, you get decapitated. Like a lot of kings in France experience that. So no. But the idea of a monarchy is kind of ridiculous in our age. The closer you're going to get is like a dictatorship, like King Jong-un, right? I mean, we have monarchies that are symbolic, but like the idea of like creating an entire regime that's a two-tier system, like one set of rules for the nobility and one set of rules for the peasantry. No, like that just won't happen. Like people just don't accept it. But if you have communism like in China, then you do actually have I genuinely believe that China can be considered a modern monarchy. Like you have the inner party members, the inner communists, and they have like different factions and stuff, right? So like if you're part of the inner party members, you get more benefits and different rules than the peasantry, which is everyone else. So I suppose you can say, yeah, like in a way, China is as closest to a monarchy, like an absolute monarchy, than every other country on earth right now. I do think that is accurate, actually. Government existed since civilization was invented. No, like liberalism talks what happened before civilization was invented, and we actually know what happened before because if humans have descended from apes, like we can look at apes, and we can figure out like how our ancestors used to be, and the answer is like they had tribes which were formed based on family. So everyone in a tribe was related to one another in some way. And usually tribes distrusted each other, right? So like you had intertribal conflict, which were usually solved by like the alpha male. But you also have like if two tribes meet, they would usually war with each other. Like it was almost like inherent aggression because they don't know each other. That was probably before civilization, right? And they used tools. They lived in cave, and that's probably how the Stone Age was like. Basically, like, as long as you're with your own, you're safe. The moment you encounter another tribe, you're fucked. Right, and I assume that as time moved on and our ancestors became more intelligent, some of those tribes merged. And as more and more tribes merged, they formed, like, some sort of civilization. And it's interesting because apes have rules as well. Like for instance, the alpha ape, he is the one that gets to shag all the women, right? And if another monkey tries to have sex with another woman, the alpha ape immediately beats him up. Like it's an unspoken rule, and the thing is, like the other monkeys know that they're not supposed to do that, right? So like they don't have language, they don't have codes. But they do have like a set of rules where like it's understandable. Like they know that, okay, this is the alpha male, and if he does this, then I have to follow, or if I challenge him, I become the alpha male. It's really interesting when you look at it. V, we have two-tier system now. Depends on how well you grease the palms. It is true, but like a two-tier system in a monarchy, it's not like something implicit. Right? Like, no, it's outspoken. Like if you are the noble, there is actually codified legislation on the rights you have. And you also have different obligations than a peasant. So, a perfect example, this is from my country, because I looked at the history of Romania. If a peasant raped a noble's daughter, the punishment was death. If a noble raped the peasant's wife, the punishment was a fine. So like that's what I'm talking about, right? It's kind of like bribery, I guess, right? This is what you talked about, but it was codified. Like you actually went to the judge and you paid the sum of money, and everyone knew that you did it. Like you were found guilty and you paid for your crime, and then you're let go. Yeah, I guess it's like it's honest, unlike what we have now, right? Yeah, it's formality. Like everything was formal. Everyone wanted to do. The thing with the monarchy, like this is why I hate it the most. Like this is the reason. Look at what's happening in the United Kingdom, right? You have the environmentalist king, like the environmentalist king, which is saying that people shouldn't smoke and all of that nonsense. Imagine if he actually had absolute powers, right? Like that is scary. Imagine in the United States, the Clinton dynasty, right? So you have like Hillary Clinton, and after she dies, well, you have like Bill Clinton, and after Bill Clinton dies, you have Hillary, and after Hillary, like there is no guarantee that the dynasty that you would have is going to be on your side. And not only that, like look at what's happening with the current dynasties, like the Saudis and the Qatarians and all of that. Do you honestly not see how they're also working with the World Economic Forum? Like, I genuinely like do not know why people think, oh well, if there's a king, then surely he will be a populist one. No, I mean you can't get a populist king. No, don't get me wrong. Like you can't have, like, there have been good kings that cared about the peasants. They do happen, yes. But if you look at history, more often than not, most kings weren't really that great. Not to mention there were wars due to misunderstandings. Like someone offended the king at a meeting. Congratulations, go die in another country now. That's your life now. That's you know how you hate communism because you lived under the Iron Curtain? That's your bias. I come from South Africa. My hatred of democracy is my bias. Yeah, but like replacing democracy with something else doesn't guarantee that it's going to be better. The thing is, like, it's just hypothetical. Like, South Africa is never going to be a monarchy, right? I mean, you're looking at it from the perspective of, like, back when the UK used to govern South Africa. Like, yeah, sure. Not gonna repeat, you know, it's like, history repeats itself, but not like that. You're not a contrarian. Dev can't take an L. And Canada is the state sponsor of terrorism in India. Congratulations on producing an heir. Thank you, Alex Alexandro. I appreciate that. I mean, the Emperor of Japan decided to stop the war when he heard about the nuclear bombs. At that point, it wasn't the Emperor. Like, everyone kind of knew. It's not that the bombs just had like a massive and colossal waste of human life. But they destroyed their steelworks. They destroyed their railways. Like, at that point, like, continuing the war effort would have been folly. Even the generals realized it. Not to mention, like, okay, they got 2. Like, what if they have 5 more, you know? So the cities that were targeted were also important for the war effort. So like, you have, like, the nation demoralized, first and foremost. You got most of the war production just completely destroyed. Well, what do you do after that, right? So the Emperor, I mean, if he had stopped the war before the bombs, that would have been different. But as the risk of sounding pedantic, I reckon all people who have access to cocaine, it's just a matter of motivation. What? The problem with cocaine, like, many people ask, okay, so like, why should it be banned? It fries the neurons. Like once you take it, the damage is irreparable. You can stop smoking, and you can be healthy again. But like, if you take cocaine, you're kind of fucked. It completely fries your neurons. It destroys lives. And the addiction is also very difficult to get over. And people who are addicted, once they don't get their fix, they get very angry and agitated. So they're a danger to others as well. Yeah, in Japan, the emperor was pretty much a figurehead in World War II. But it's true. Like, he wanted... Like, here's an interesting thing, right? Everyone talks about the Nuremberg trials. Everyone is like, okay, well, you know, we brought justice to the Nazis and whatever. They don't talk about the Japanese war trials, which are very interesting, because the Japanese did some fucked up shit as well. Some would argue that certain war crimes that they did were even worse than what the Nazis did. I forgot the name of the unit think it's like Unit 301 or something. Like, they were a research division that the Japanese had, which experimented on prisoners and cut them open while they were alive, left them out in the cold to see like how long it takes for them to die of exposure, use them as target practice in order to see like how much does it take for a person to bleed out. Like some of the experiments involved taking a person's hand and freezing it and then putting it into boiling water, like that type of shit, right? Unit 731, yeah. You can go on Google, you can see the pictures. Like, it's just, like, really fucked up. But again, like, people don't talk about it because they don't know history. They know, like, Nazi, bad, Nazi, bad. But, like, if you ask them more than that, they don't know. It's like, their knowledge extends to Marvel movies and World War II, right? That's where it ends, that's where it begins. So my point is the rape of Nanking as well. Like, again, the Japanese did some really nasty stuff during World War II. But anyway, right? So once they decide that they sued for peace, now you have their own version of Nuremberg trials. First of all, the Americans actually pardoned the people from Unit 731 in exchange for the documents, right? So they were like, hey, give us your research, and you can fuck off. Like, we're not going to, right? But that's neither here nor there. Another interesting thing that they did, the Americans didn't want to kill the emperor, because it would have just completely destroyed the Japanese psyche. For them, the emperor wasn't like a king in the same way that, you know, you have like the King of England. It's like, no. For them, the emperor was God, right? Like he was the sun that rises. He was a deity, basically. You know, he had the blood of the dragon. So the Americans didn't want to kill the king. But the problem is, you have now the equivalent of the Nuremberg trials. And how do you make it so that you don't involve the emperor? And apparently, it was very difficult for the people that were summoned at the trial, because they had to avoid mentioning the emperor under any circumstance. Because if you were like a Japanese general, right, responsible for war crimes, and you're being trialed, if you said that you followed the emperor's orders, well, that means that the emperor is guilty. So he would have to be brought to trial, right? But if you said that the emperor didn't know what you were doing, well, congratulations, you just confessed of treason. So they were placed in this very fucked up position where they couldn't say anything. To be fair, though, they did manage to come up with a very solid defense. And their defense was actually very plausible. The Japanese as a nation used to be a closed nation. They were secluded. So they were walled off. They didn't want anyone to come in. They didn't want anyone to go out, right? The Americans came with the black ships and forced Japan to open in order to trade. That's why it's called gunboat diplomacy. Like, the Japanese were still in the era of feudalism when the Americans came with the steamboats and leveled one of their ports. I mean, it was, to call it a one-sided battle wouldn't do it justice. Like, even to this day, the Japanese still have what is called the black ships, right? Like, Google the black ships, Japan. Just do it. Do it now. It's hilarious. You're going to find the depictions interesting. No, seriously, just go on Google and Google Japan black ships, right? Those were like the worst thing that ever happened in Japanese history before the atomic bombs. Right? Like, the same country, the United States, managed not once but twice to completely scar the Japanese psyche. So basically they're saying, okay, so you guys forced us to open up. You guys forced us to interact with the outside world. And in order to do that, we had to get resources. Because if we don't get resources, we would have become a vassal state. So you pushed us into World War II. Like, you pushed us into the arms of the Nazis because you wouldn't trade for us, you wouldn't give us stuff. So, like, we had to go and invade China in order to get resources. It was actually, you know, like a passable defense, I guess. Because, yeah, the Americans could have left them the fuck alone. That is true. Chat needs to read Embracing Defeat by John Dower. Very good description about Japan and their occupation after the Pacific War. Yeah, but the problem is reading. Why can't it have an audiobook, though? The black ship names refer to the American steamships that arrives under the command of Perry to force Tokugawa shogunate. Why does my chat know all these things? But yes, a lot of people think that the black ships are called like that because it has like something to do with African Americans, and the answer is nee. It's got nothing to do with African Americans. It's the fact that they were steamboats, and the smoke that they were releasing was black. And again, like imagine that you're like a feudal society. It's kind of like going back in time. Right? Imagine going back into the year 1400 or so, and you have like a modern boat, you know, a naval destroyer, and you go with it into the port of London, and you start bombarding London. Like imagine the psyche that those people would have. Like, what would they possibly think? Like, they would just... I mean, the level of technology is so inconceivable, and they never saw anything like that before. Obviously, you're going to scar them for generations. Because they're going to even be like, how the fuck do we fight that? Like, okay, this is like God level. Yeah, the ship hulls were black as well. But I also think it's the smoke. Like, if you see a steam engine, like an actual boat powered by steam engine, it releases black smoke because of the coal. Yeah, they were also black in order to mask the Holsteins. That is true. I think we're conflating a couple of different time periods. No, I don't think so. They didn't have access to firearms. Like, they didn't have... They were still using bows and arrows, and they were riding horse. I mean... There's also an interesting description of the first Japanese delegation to the United States. I mean, that is just something that you guys need to check it out. If you go and Google, you will find it. And thank you, Elena Ceausescu, for the $9.99 shawarma money. Can I still buy a shawarma with that? I think it's just enough. Yes, I think it's just enough. Bidenomics have made the shawarma more expensive. They basically talk about... did they have firearms? They definitely didn't have cannons. I know that. So, like, if they had, like, the primitive boomsticks, like the firecracker stuff, okay, fine. But definitely... they didn't have cannons. So anyway, the first delegation that went to the United States, it was actually very difficult to learn English. Because no one in Japan spoke English, right? So, like, how do you learn a language that no one speaks? Apparently, the diplomat, the emissary, found a Portuguese merchant that spoke English. So he first learned Portuguese using Latin, because they actually did have Latin. They knew Latin, so they used Latin in order to communicate. Then he learned Portuguese, and then he learned English using Portuguese. Whatever. When they arrived in the United States, they were shocked because of how wasteful the Americans were. They went onto the beach, and they saw like all these tin cans and all the stuff that was thrown away, which was lead. And they couldn't imagine it because in Japan that was very priceful. It's an island nation, doesn't have a lot of iron, doesn't have a lot of lead, right? So, then he talks about like how he went to the hotel and how he went with the Americans at a gun range and shot guns, and it was exciting. But Uh, Apparently the coolest moment is like when they rode horse and like him being the part like had samurai training, knew how to ride horse very well, so he impressed the Americans. Another thing that he was shocked was that Americans don't know where Washington's descendants are. Like this really mind fucked the Japanese. It's like, what? He's your founding father. He founded your nation. What do you mean you don't know where his descendants? Like, no. Like, he's got a daughter that lives somewhere. It's like, what? Is she not like venerated, worshipped? No. It was a good thing that the US made Japan open up. A lot of people don't know this, but Japan, for the first Far East country to hand a modern Western country, Russia, an L in the Russia-Japanese War. It is true. That's why like many people also thought that Russia is not going to put up much of a resistance during World War II. Their cannons never quite reached the proficiency of foreign weapons, those they imported later on, but they had them. I see. Lineage is huge in Japanese culture, yes. Latin was well known in the East due to the trade with the Roman Empire. Yeah. Like they actually knew Latin. The Chinese actually, when the British arrived to get the Chinese to open up, they also responded to the Brits in Latin. So didn't respond very well though, because it ended up in the century of humiliation. So the Brits also went to China in order to trade with them, and the Chinese went like, no, we're not going to give you anything except porcelain. Like, you can have porcelain if you want. The Brits didn't like that, so that ended up with the end of the Chinese Empire. But they did respond in Latin, yes. It's not just the Catholic missionaries. It was also merchants and trade. And, they did actually have access to like texts that where they could use it to learn Latin. There were Christians in Japan in the 17th century. I mean, religion usually spreads through merchants, right? In the old days, that's how news traveled, and that's how religion also spread. It was through merchants, soldiers, like military. So like if your country was at war and you had like military just occupying parts of your country, they had their own traditions. People would notice, they would start adopting it. Also, like, war does go hand in hand with rape and plunder throughout history. So, like, if a soldier would take some woman, then he would probably enforce his way of life on her. Right. So, do a Freedom Alternative collab? I just did. It's on my channel. We just had that. Oh, with Arch. Does he want to? Christianity is basically non-existent in Japan today. 0.0.2% practice. I guess, but like they still have like a lot of Christian traditions that they follow, right? Like it's a weird mix. Like, for instance, they celebrate Christmas. They don't really celebrate Christ, right? But they have like a sort of pseudo Christmas in Japan. They also have like the same marriage things that are like in Christianity, I think. Am I wrong? Like I see it in anime. Like they have like it's different than what they used to have, is my point. Like they used to have marriages before, but like you can see that Christianity has tainted their traditions a little bit. Yeah, it's like outside traditions, not directly Christians, but like you can tell that they were inspired from Christianity. Like you can tell that Christianity did have an effect on Japan. Their religious side is a mix of Buddhism, Shinto, and Christianity. Yeah. I think like their philosophy, I forgot what it's called. I think it's like Shinto or something, and it basically, hello Silva. it basically allow for like the acceptance of different religions. I don't know exactly. Like I have one Japanese friend, he explained it to me, but it's basically like that's why they're more tolerant of religions than other nations. They have like this philosophy that, you know, there's like multiple paths or something like that. I don't want to get into it because I may spread harmful and dangerous misinformation. What is this to do with my thumbnail? Good question. Yeah, ESG is a fucking grift. I mean, there have been people high up from Wall Street that came out in public and recently said it. Yeah, it's a grift. It's basically to move money around. It's basically to gain ownership of companies. Like they know that if a company takes the ESG money and actually does what the ESG is supposed to do, the company is going to start failing. And if the company fails, they can't pay back the loan. If they can't pay back the loan, then the banks own the company, right? So it is a grift. The thing is, like, many companies, they virtue signal, but they don't do it. So for instance, there are companies that try to appear woke in order to get the ESG shit. But in reality, they're not, right? So, like companies that want to take leftist money, they exist in Romania as well. Like, we do it as well. It's like we want to take the EU money, right? So we'll say what they want us to say, just take the money, and then we do whatever we want. Like the Fortune 500 is filled with woke companies, but the question is, like, which companies are genuinely woke and which countries aren't? Because it's very easy to have like a mission statement. It's very easy to just say, oh yeah, sure, like we're for women. Oh, absolutely. Look at Blizzard, for instance, right? Like Blizzard gets accused of raping women. Sorry, not raping, abusing their employees, right? The sexual assault, that was the accusation. They get sued by women for like wage discrimination, gender discrimination. But they're a very woke company. They have like a really huge ESG score. Why? Because they removed the jokes from World of Warcraft, and you know, they promote diversity, and they have a transgender bathroom that no one uses, but like the reporters can see it because it's at the ground floor. So they appear to be woke, right? But in reality, they're not. Look at, but best example for this. Like, this is the most, I think, like, the most compelling argument that you can make. If you look at TV shows, right? Every single TV show has gay people in it. And the reason for this is that it's mandatory. Like, it's a checkbox. Like, you gotta fit in the quota. Like, and it's public. Like, Amazon actually states that this is part of their diversity initiative. Elon Musk revealed that Disney does the same, right? Like they literally have, it's like you must have people from historically unrepresented groups in your movie. Like this is mandatory, right? Before you can even go with the story, before you can even go with the plot, you must have this, right? So like every single TV show that came out in the last, I would say 8 years, give or take, has gay characters in it. Like it's impossible to think of something that doesn't. In fact, like, chat, if you can think of anything, let me know, right? So a TV show came out in the last 8 years, doesn't have any gay characters in it. Let me know if you can think of any. But when you look at blockbuster movies, when you look at Hollywood, not a single movie almost has gay characters, right? So why is that? Why is it that, like, all these woke companies that, like, they're promoting LGBT issues when it comes to TV shows, they don't do the same for movies? And the answer is because they want to make money. The answer is that China pays the homophobia tax. Like, China would not allow a movie to have any type of gay characters, right? It gets banned in China. And Rick and Morty has gay people. What the fuck are you on about? Cops is not really, I mean, okay, reality TV shows don't count, and I'm willing to bet, I am willing to put money that if I look at Cops, every single episode in the last 8 years, I will find a gay person there. I genuinely do not think that Cops just doesn't have at least one episode where there's gay people. All right. But the thing is, like, as I was saying, right? So, people watch TV shows on the internet. Yeah, since 2016, I would say. Yeah, like 2016 is also a good starting point. Where is the gayness in Rick and Morty? Didn't they have like the Beths having sex with each other? Like there was an episode where the two Beths engaged in homosexual relationship. I'm sorry if you're not watching it, but like I did watch Rick and Morty religiously. That is gay themes in Rick and Morty. But anyway, right? So China doesn't allow for any type of movies to have gay characters in it. This is why you also it doesn't matter. It's there, right? Like with Hollywood movies, you don't see it. Like the entire Hollywood movies, absolutely no gay characters. The thing is, there are no tits on the big screen anymore either. Also due to China, right? Like, if you look at movies from the 90s, showing tits on television, like in a mature movie, like rated M for mature, Starship Troopers is the best example, right? Like Starship Troopers, the girls go into the bathroom with the guys, and all of a sudden you see boobies. Right? Like they hadn't had any issue with this. And this was like during the Bush era, during the conservatives. When they would freak out if you just said the F word. And it's due to China. Like, they don't allow nudity. They don't allow homosexuality. They don't allow any of these things. So Hollywood complies, right? Now, Hollywood, you'd think, is maximum ESG. But in reality, they just do the virtue signal. But when it push comes to shove, they go for the money, right? So this is what a lot of companies do. Unfortunately, though, when you're an entertainment company, it's a lot more difficult. Like if you're Gillette. If you're Gillette, you put on an ad which shows, oh, boys will be boys, horrible, male gaze evil, all that shit, right? But you still make good razors. Like the product isn't really affected. Right? Because you still maintain quality for the razors. You just like put on the woke ad and you did your job. With entertainment companies, it's a lot more difficult because now the product is the entertainment. So like when you start doing the woke shit, you can't really pretend, right? You can't have like right-wing, right-wing populist. You can't like have populist video games or comic books. And pretend to be woke, because it doesn't work that way, right? So like when entertainment companies buy the ESG, that's why they fail so hard. China got its tentacles around Hollywood in the late 90s when Hollywood stopped making movies about CCP sensitive topics. But it's not even that, right? Like the thing with China is that not only do you have to censor the movie, but even if you were to make an alternative version that is uncensored, then you can't sell it in China. So like if you make a movie, let's say Starship Troopers, right? China would tell you get rid of the tits. And you have to get rid of the tits. And if you have like a separate movie where you add that in, it gets banned in China. And chances are they won't do business with your studio again because you did that. Right? You try to bypass their censorship. Like, the only way to do it would have to, like, give a different name to the movie, completely different thing, and change the story a lot so that it's different than the original one, and then you can do it. Game of Thrones actually had full frontal for male and female alike. I want more of that for entertainment. Game of Thrones is, like, the only one that did it. Like people were like, oh my god, there's tits in Game of Thrones. Spartacus used to have breasts, but even then, like a lot of TV shows that I grew up with that were rated M for mature had breasts in them, right? Like nudity isn't a problem, And even like simulating sex isn't the problem. The only problem would be if you actually film the genitals going one into another, right? So like if you film the penetration, that is a problem. But like in American entertainment, I don't know how like the woke standards are nowadays. If you have like the Last of Us scene with Abby getting banged from behind, that is considered fine. Unless it's anime. Like if you make an anime adaptation of The Last of Us, then it gets banned. But like other than that, it has always been this way, right? Like it never changed. Like I remember Buffy Vampire Slayer, like they simulate sex acts. Like most teenage shows simulate sex acts in American entertainment. They go under the bed, under the blanket, or you know, they only film chest up, right? So like the man is on top and they get to film like his back and his shoulders as he moves up and down and the woman moans. But like that's it, right? Like that, if you do that, you can still have it on television. Like that's fine. But if you show the genitals, then it's not fine. Conan the Barbarian had a sex scene in it, and the woman had tits, naked. It's just in recent time. Like the thing is, they will say, well, it's misogynistic to show that, but OnlyFans exists, Twitch exists, like all these other places exist, and for some reason they don't talk about it. They're not upset. People are upset that I recognize that I watched Rick and Morty. I should have shut the fuck up. Say that I'm a furry. I'm actually not ashamed with Rick and Morty, to be honest. Like, the reason Rick and Morty is cringe is because it's popular. If it was like a fringe show that no one watched, then it would have been fine. I would say like some episodes are hilarious, but the Pickle Rick thing, I just don't get it. Like, why is it so fucking hilarious? Why do people find it amusing? Oh my god, he turned into a pickle. Why though? Why is that episode the meme? I never understand. It's so fucking bizarre. Like, I genuinely didn't laugh when he turned himself into a pickle. Oh, he's running away from a psychologist. Oh no. Oh no, the psychologist. Well, normies now watch anime, which is the problem. Absurdism. See, like if he just turned himself into a pickle all of a sudden, that would make sense. But like he did all of the other wacky shit before that episode, to the point when he turns into a pickle is not really surprising. Like he already did other stuff, which was more absurd than him getting turned into a pickle. So I never got like the joke. It's like, like on X, a leftist made an argument for something woke and backed it up with sitcoms. I reply, your base is reality Hollywood. Do you know, like, what was it? What was the state in America? Hawaii. Is Hawaii a state? I'm European. I don't fucking know. You guys don't know about Liechtenstein. Shut the fuck up. The state of Hawaii went to ban, had an argument in the Supreme Court to try and ban the guns. And they actually cited as an argument a line from the movie The Wire. Let that fucking sink in, okay? Just let it fucking sink in. You're trying to ban guns, right? Like, you're trying to go against the Constitution of the United States of America. And you're in a court, a serious person, and you're citing The Wire. Like, motherfucker, you're not a clown, you're the entire circus. The Wire. Let me see if I can find it. So, Wire cited in court. I can't find it right now. I saw it on Twitter. It was hilarious. Yes, bird flu. What is going on? Yeah, The Wire is fantastic, but not as a legal argument, for fuck's sakes. You know, like cite history, cite jurisprudence, cite the law. You know, you don't fucking cite fictional movies when you're in court. It's fucking bonkers. I don't think like any other country has ever done this. Like it shows the mentality of modern culture. When I say that the extent of knowledge of leftists is Marvel movies and World War II, I wish I was fucking wrong. But every single day they're proving to me that Idiocracy, okay, please stop giving Idiocracy as a negative example. Idiocracy actually shows one of the most competent presidents that the world has ever seen in fiction. Like think about it. Okay, so let's look at the president of Idiocracy, right? So this is the president of Idiocracy. And I want you guys to tell me if I'm wrong, alright? When I say that this is the best president that any country could have, people laugh at me and they're like, well, he's an idiot. He's not... Okay, this man is an imbecile, but he's very charismatic, right? He's a president. He's a star. Everyone knows him. He's got a problem. He cares about his people, right? He could just ignore his people. No, he cares about his people. Agriculture is failing. He wants to fix that. He gets the smartest man, like someone smarter than him, right? He gets the smartest man and asks him to fix the problem. He allows him to fix the problem. Eventually the problem is fixed. And when he realizes that the smartest man is actually improving the nation, you know what he does? He steps down. And the smartest man becomes president. How the fuck is this not the best president that has ever existed? There is no politician alive today that manages to raise himself to half of this fictional character's level. I genuinely want to know, like, why exactly is Idiocracy like a bad thing? This guy did everything correctly, and shows that in order to be a good president, you don't have to be smart. You know what he did have? That Dev doesn't have, or any people that go statistics. He had wisdom. Had wisdom. It's like something that you can't learn. You're born with it. You either have it or you don't. You don't go to school, you're not educated, you don't know any of that shit. It's kind of like wisdom. It's like a sense. He's got the feeling. It's like, I feel that maybe, you know, like if I don't know anything about agriculture, I should put this guy in charge. He seems smart, maybe he will figure it out. And he did, and it's like, okay, well, if he figured it out, and he's smarter than me, and he's improving the nation, well, why should I prevent him from running? No, let him run, let him become president. Yeah, he's patriotic as fuck, right? Javier Milei is not dumb. Like, Javier Milei is actually smart. Apparently he balanced the books in Argentina. Like for the first time in 2 decades, Argentina actually doesn't have a deficit in its budget. So, imagine a leader that sacrifices for the people instead of sacrificing the people. Yeah, exactly. He was wise and humble. He delegated responsibility to the right men. Yeah. No, unironically, I can't think of any fictional or real politician that is better than that guy. And everyone laughs at him, you know, everyone mocks him. And it's like, oh my god, Idiocracy is such a bad movie. And it's like, bad for whom? Bad for whom? For the current politicians, which allegedly are smarter than this guy, but are more incompetent, worse at what they do, and don't care about the people, aren't patriotic. Yeah, sure. It's bad for them, I guess. The man is president for 3 months and has already delivered the surplus, yeah. Global warming to cooling never died. Diversity, exclusivity, inclusivity. By the way, I noticed that a lot of people who support diversity, inclusivity, and equity die. Like, have realized that, oh shit, the acronym does sound pretty fucking bad, doesn't it? And they're the ones that made it. Like, they're the ones that keep parroting diversity, inclusivity, and equity. Diversity, inclusivity, and equity. So now it's like diversity, equity, inclusivity. Because it's like, oh, it's not die. Like notice how they're doing. They're changing the acronym because they realize that it's got like a stink in the public mind. So they're changing it. I don't know what the Canadian narco economy will do now that Milei has made Argentina the new money laundering go-to nation. The thing is, like, I don't think it can be worse. Like, a lot of people keep blaming Javier. It's like, look, the thing was already so fucked that there is nothing that Javier can do to make it worse. Like, literally, it's like going into a house that's abandoned, like has the walls that are falling, and there's garbage everywhere. What more can you do? You know, like, it can only go from there, it can only go up. There's no more, like, rock bottom, it's already there. I mean, does Javier really need to convert to Judaism? Kinda suspicious. I don't know, like, why people want the perfect figure. If he fixes the economy, is that not enough? It's like, oh, but he's like, wants to convert to Judaism, but it looks bad. I don't fucking care. It's like, what does it matter? Like, what is Argentina and what is Israel? Like, what exactly can he do? It is weird. Yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, like, apparently in order to convert to Judaism, you have to be rejected 3 times. Like, I didn't know that. But like, it's actually a difficult process, because I looked it up. Maybe I want to convert to Judaism now, huh? Apparently it's like a very difficult process. Most religions, you know, they want converts. Like Christianity, you know, they want to convert you. Islam, they definitely want to convert you. Judaism, not so much. They're a little bit more skeptical. So, you go to a rabbi, and you ask him that you want to join, and he will refuse you. And he does this 3 times. Apparently, it's like to make sure that you really want him. And then you have to snip your cock if it's not snipped already. I assume it's painful. Do they check it, though? Like, do they want to see? Or is it like papers just sufficient? I don't know. You have to learn Hebrew. You have to learn all their traditions. Like, you gotta be like at least 1 year where you learn all of the stuff. And then you get like a sort of exam. And then you're in. But you still can't get Israeli citizenship. Because they do a DNA test for that. I mean, you can get it, but not through the thing of like the right to return or whatever they call it. Yeah, you can't get it through that. No, it's not. It's not a cult. Like the difference between a cult and a religion, I think it's like how many people believe in it. Like, if there's a sufficient number of people that believe in it, it stops being a cult. Like, usually religions have established traditions, and they've been a while, right? So that's the difference. That has to be outlawed. There should be no place for genital mutilation in 2024. I agree. There was a country that wanted to outlaw it, and the ADL freaked out. I think it was New Zealand, right? And they threatened them with like economic sanctions and international embargo if they ban circumcision. And they gave them like 3 arguments. They gave them like the medical argument. Apparently, it's very healthy. I fucking don't know. How I did not get sick from not getting circumcised is a miracle. They gave them that argument. They gave them the religious argument, and apparently like the freedom argument or something like that. Yeah, the ADL. I'm not kidding. They wrote a very public letter. Let me check. ADL. Yeah. Here we go. I'll read it in a bit. It's on their website, right? Like it's still there. 2018, ADL urges Iceland, so not New Zealand, my bad, Iceland to drop bill banning male circumcision. In a letter addressed to the Parliament Committee discussing the proposal, ADL CEO Jonathan Greenbaum said that the proposal to ban male circumcision is contrary to basic principles of religious freedom and deeply offensive to Jews and Muslims. The commandment of Brit Milah, circumcision, on the 8th day is a fundamental religious right in Judaism and universally practiced by all families who identify as Jewish across the broad spectrum practice. Such a ban would mean that no Jewish family could be raised in Iceland, and it is inconceivable that a Jewish community could remain in any country that prohibits the Brit Milah. Finland's Supreme Court ruled in 2008 that ritual male circumcision is protected under the European Convention of Human Rights by the right to personal autonomy as a part of the right to privacy, the right to family life, and the freedom of religion. In his letter, the ADL is the leading monitor of far-right extremism in the United States. Should Iceland ban male circumcision, making it impossible for Jews and Muslims to raise families in the country, we guarantee that Iceland will be celebrated by neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other extremists. Oh my fucking god, who knows? What would Iceland do? Like, oh... people from across the world that we don't know, we've never seen, and they won't affect us, are going to be celebrating. Holy shit, the horror. Even though anti-Semitism was surely not the impetus for the proposal, the result will of its adoption will be glorification of Iceland by the most despicable bigots. Oh well, we can't be glorified by bigots. You know, like this is how I live my life, according to the ADL. Everything I do, I'm asking, but like, what will bigots say? What will bigots do? So anyway, this is the letter. The letter is actually even more astonishing. So they cite 3 reasons against banning it: the religious freedom, the medical benefit, Iceland's international standing, and negative economic impact. Like literally threatening. Yes, so the ADL is threatening the nation of Iceland in this letter. The ADL is leading monitor of far-right extremism. Blah blah blah. Content, social media, okay. Given that 28% of Iceland's tourists come from North America, Iceland's standing in the US should have been of great concern from an economic perspective. We are confident that the vast majority of American tourists will avoid a country whose reputation is associated with Nazism, even if that association is not justified. I don't know how you can blackmail more in the open. Isn't it interesting? It's like they're meddling in a foreign nation's affairs, right? Like they are basically challenging the legislative that's democratically elected by the people of Iceland, and they're from America. And they're basically saying, wouldn't it be a shame if you are associated with Nazism, and given that 28% of your income is from tourism? Wouldn't it be a shame if you are associated with Nazism, even if that wasn't the case? Individually, any of 3 arguments should convince you to oppose the ban on male circumcision. Collectively, they should compel you to make the right decision and propose the proposed ban. Holy fucking shit. Like if I was there, I would have just done it out of spite at that point. It'd be just like, well... Yeah, but Dev would say this isn't corruption. Well, I don't know. The ADL literally takes orders from the FBI. Is that a thing? Yeah, this was in 2018. I remember like seeing it in the news. I couldn't believe it. Like that's why it's stuck in my brain. It's like there's no fucking way. This is satire, right? Like, this is satire. There's no way. Like, these are like some far-right extremists tarnishing the good name of the ADL. Like, they wouldn't have said that. I mean, it's not that totally unhinged. It's just that there's no consequences, right? Like when you have a person that doesn't have accountability or consequences for what they do, you get to see them being arrogant in public. This is what you get. I mean, yeah, they threatened Iceland and they won. Like they got that law repealed. And nothing happened to them. So like, why wouldn't they do it? So, according to Newsweek, Iceland Jew beat church taxes and circumcision ban. There. I mean, why wouldn't they? You know, might makes right, I guess. So if you manage to pull it off, what's wrong with that? Anyway, right, don't forget, as soon as Iceland accepted rabbis, the rabbi then started saying that Iceland should open up for diversity. Get the fuck, no fucking way. No fuck, is that true? Ha! Anyway, right, was fun. I need to go back making my video game. So, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate the super chats, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Take care.